Hey guys, welcome back one and all to the Time Bomb channel, of course with the dulcet tones of your host Bombardier. And today's watch we've got, as the name suggests, is the Smiths PRS 25 Everest and the 40mm version. Not quite sure where to start with this watch. Plan A, we've got the historical angle. Plan B, then there's the Rolex angle, but then again they're kind of both sort of interrelated, interlinked. So I think we're going to go with Plan C. 1953, couple of chaps, namely Sherpa Tenzing and Edmund Hillary, summited Everest, of course, or Chomolungma, or Sagarmatha, as Norgay may have referred to it as. Rumour has it that there were two watches used on the ascent, a Rolex Oyster Perpetual and a Smiths Deluxe. I'm not going to go into who was wearing which and what were the exact models, variations, deviations, etc., etc., as that's been covered very, very successfully elsewhere. But clearly, though, for Smiths, this was a bit of a marketing coup, with which they understandably embraced with open arms, releasing a new line of Everest models. Smiths themselves went on to producing watches up into the late 70s, finally succumbing to oxygen starvation in the form of quartz watches. The brand Smiths then essentially no longer exists nowadays as a standalone brand. Time Factors here in the UK revived it and are now the producers of the Smiths. However, quick spoiler alert before we sort of actually then start getting into the watch itself. If you have an issue with the availability of, say, Helm watches, then the availability of Smiths are really going to put some sand in that Vaseline. The Time Factors website has recently, thankfully, been updated, but the 300 units availability of their watch models sells out in around under 10 minutes, and that may not be everyone's idea of watch purchasing. So as you can see, actually let me just pop the ticket up. This is the purchase receipt, which was, as you can quite clearly see, back December 2011. So I picked it up secondhand on Fleabay. I've been looking for around 2 months for one of these, specifically the 40mm version. The 36s tend to be a lot more common. I think I actually paid a fair price, as several of these 40mm have sold within the last 2 months for at least double the price for what I paid for this one. For me, I think, coming back to sort of like the historical angle, this PRS 25 is not necessarily a copy of the Deluxe that went up Everest, nor is it a copy of the OP that went along with the Deluxe. Although it very clearly does have leanings towards the Rolex 1016, which I think then obviously followed on from that original OP. For me, it's sort of a homogeneous fruit punch homage to all three of those watches, and I really dig it, hence the purchase. I think, to me, viewed from the top, viewed from the sides, the honest dial and sort of sleek flanks and almost clinical cleanliness of the watch have me giggling and staring at it like a nut job. Traska, Tissot, Alpha and a few others have their similar homage versions to the 1016. I really do like the Traska Summitia, but unfortunately it does sort of break my price budget limits. And personally, I think with regards to coming back to the Smiths and the PRS, I think once you can get over the Rolex and Everest lineage, I think then the door will open, allowing you to join the inner sanctum of the cult of followers that Smiths watches have. But enough waxing lyrical, let's try and focus on the specifics. So as I mentioned before, this being the 40mm version, again, dated back to 2011, I think it's been pretty well looked after by previous owners. Yes, there's some signs of wear. There's a couple of few little scratches, etc. That acrylic. I mean, I've given it a go over with some polywatch, removed some of the larger hairline scratches in that. But to be perfectly honest with you, I think overall it's held up pretty well for 10 years. The clasp, though, on the back is a little awkward. It doesn't click 100%. It is slightly exposed, as you can see here. Pulling it out, I mean, yeah, It's not brilliant, but having said that, I had a quick look at the Smiths blog today, and quite a few people on there were, there's multiple sort of, aspects opened up there. People, chat boxes open up there, people complaining about Smiths bracelets, specifically the clasps. On later version, it had a much bigger clasp than this. People saying that they're too heavy. Then later versions then came with the riveted versions here, which people were complaining they sort of catch on. So I think, bracelets are a bit of a weak point for Smiths watches in general. It is a 22 mil lug, much better than my hated 20 mils that you find on a 36. But again, additionally, then looking at those end links, both from the outside and the inside, whilst you do have drilled lugs on here, I'm thinking that those fixed end links, I'm going to need to do some research with regards to compatibility as to what you might be able to swap this out for. Again, if you guys have got any experience of alternate bracelets on here, it'd be really, really useful to hear your feedback. Onto the dial though itself, again, I think the Smiths typeface here may prove a little divisive for some. It's not it's not a particularly attractive font. Maybe some fans out there may sort of have a preference for something a little bit more vintage. As you can see on this image that I'm just popping up here, that deluxe model had a much nicer branding image. But again, I'm wondering if there aren't copyright issues which is preventing them from using them nowadays. The Mercedes hands that you find on here, of course, are unashamedly shaking hands with the Rolex Explorer, but they're not shaking hands with the Minute Track, as you can see here. They fall quite short, and even on the 36 mil version, they seem to fit a little bit better. But as you can see from the image here, the second hand does reach a little further, but the hour hand still resists the temptation to connect with the hour markers, and I think that may bother some. This boxy, domey acrylic on the top here does really provide some superb distortion, and it is really quite fun. And I think the best part where it provides that distortion can be seen just at the bottom here, as long as the camera follows where I would like it to focus. As you try and sort of drop into the right at the bottom, we've got this Great Britain text, and that's where you can really see the distortion, because it completely vanishes at some points. Again, sort of a spoiler alert here, that Great Britain does not refer to the watch being made here. It only means that it's been designed and sold here. I'm cool with that. I'm not the kind of watch fan who gets goose pimples if on the dial it says it's been made in Never Never Land. I think in fact that they are actually assembled in Hong Kong. If you guys know anything different about that, please do let me know down below. I don't know if this lens is going to pick it up, so I'll throw up a little macro shot here. On the dial below the hands, above the 6, you have this Ghost Everest branding in sort of like a muted grey. I really, really like it. I think though some people might sort of find it a little bit twee. I think it removes the reliance on over-scripted dials. There's no automatic, no chrono this or that, or resistant this. It's almost a poker face dial, and then it's held in or framed, if you like, by this surgically clean plain bezel. The flat case back, again. Sorry, it's a bit of a fingerprint marker, this one, so give that a clean before I try and show you the back. Super flat case back. There's just detail on the back saying, Smiths PRS 25. Sorry, I'm getting my fingers in the way there. And then just a little water resistant 100 meters reference on the bottom. So yeah, again, putting it more the sports field watch category there. You've got then a green Luminova. Pop up a quick dark shot for you here. Coming back to the watch itself though, just while we come off that, the crown is screwed down on later models. So I'm getting too close to the camera there. On later models, the crown is signed. As I say, it is a screwed down. You've got a Miyota 915 movement in here, and yeah, you can easily spot on first click out. There's a ghost date movement in there, but again, it's very solid. no issues at all with winding, hacking, etc. on this. Yeah, just left it without the time, screw that back down in there. You know, again, solid pop, solid click. So yeah, even after the 10 years, I'm not quite sure of the services on this. I think I might be sending it off for a quick service. One thing that I have picked up on just in the couple of days that I've had this, just to give you a quick listen here, if I shut up for a second. That movement inside is quite jangly. This is my first experience with this Myoda 9015. For comparative purposes, it is actually noisier than my Orient Bambino, which has got the noisiest rotor I've actually ever heard. So again, I think, yeah, again, if you guys know anything about this particular movement or that sound, I mean, it really is evident in a quiet room. Be good to hear your thoughts. So yeah, it's a bit of an odd watch, this one really, isn't it? As I say, it's kind of this homogeneous, you know, mush of a couple of different watches. So why am I attracted to it? Most of my other watches have what I would call, you know, sort of magnetic functions that draw me in. Let me just pull up an example. So the Citizen Tough, what draws me to it is the solar power, you know, sort of never needing batteries. It's got a super flat, flush profile with that muted grey. Then say on the MM200, it's got this delicious, absolutely delicious bezel action that keeps me coming back to play with it, you know, for hours on end. Then we've got sort of, you know, the freaky tank-like sex appeal of the Kuraburi here, but the PRS is the you know, other end of the other end of the spectrum in its complete lack of any of those aspects. It's not breaking the boundaries of watch design, nor is it stretching your bank balance, but it is a bizarrely satisfying piece. But I fully confess, if 10 years ago you'd showed me this, I probably would have responded with a Gallic shrug, going, pass me a Seiko or a Citizen, please. So I'm kind of going to put down the appeal of this watch to my age. I think it sort of fits with me right now, and I know quite, you know, without reservation, I'm not going to be buying an Explorer 1016 at any you know, this side of retirement, and I'm really okay with that. If you guys out there have got, you know, that being your sort of Grail watch, go-to watch that, you know, you're saving up for, I fully get it, fully get it. That's not what I'm about with watches. I think the goodwill payment that is attached to those 1016 Explorer price tags is refreshingly absent here. And I do like the fact that this vintage design is here on this 10-year-old watch, which does have those signs of usage, and it feels automatically at home on your wrist. Give you a quick wrist shot. While I'm doing that, I took a couple of shots on the camera just to sort of try and give you a little bit of a better view. It sits really flush. My wrist 7 1/4. I think, yeah, as a work watch, as a sports watch, this really does tick a huge number of boxes. And as I say, the fact that it just sits so comfortably on wrist, yeah, absolutely a complete and utter box ticker for me. Alright guys, just finish up there with a slight better close-up again. We get a lot of light reflection here. Alright guys, I think that's probably a wrap for today. Be good to hear your thoughts as always down below. Got any experience of the Smiths, specifically around, you know, swapping out those bracelets with those end links? Would be good to hear your thoughts. Anyway guys, up until next time, this is your host, the Bombardier, signing off. Cheers.